You don't break an ego with silence, you break it with evolution. You think going silent is the move. You think cutting them off is the final blow. But what if I told you it's not? What if I told you that no contact isn't the punishment you think it is, that it's not the ending, it's just the pause before the real work begins? Because here's the truth, my friends, silence isn't power when you're still screaming inside, and no contact means nothing if you're still secretly hoping they'll come back. The ego you're trying to crush, it doesn't crumble just because you went quiet. It crumbles when you go higher, when you rise so far above the version of you they once knew that they can't even touch your shadow anymore. Now, hey folks, imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a bridge that you keep rebuilding in your mind. Over and over again, you burn it down, but then you sit there, staring at the ashes, hoping they'll cross anyway. That maybe, just maybe, they'll realize what they lost and run back over that same burned bridge. That's the trap. That's what they want. That's what their ego feeds on. They don't fear your silence. They expect it. They've seen it before. But what they don't expect is your transformation. What they don't see coming is a version of you that doesn't just go quiet, but becomes untouchable. That's how you crush an ego, not with the cold shoulder, but with the heat of your rebirth. Let me break a lie real quick. If you just go no contact, they'll start to miss you. Wrong. People don't miss what they think they can still get back. They miss what they can't recognize anymore. When you become a mystery, when you become a ghost to their expectations, that's when the ego starts to shake. You want to shake their world. Stop disappearing. Start evolving. Don't just vanish. Transcend. Think of your silence like an empty gym, useless unless you lift, unless you push, unless you grow in it. Just being quiet doesn't make you strong. What makes you strong is what you build in the silence, who you become in the dark. No contact is the space. What you do with that space, that's the weapon. There's a quote I live by: "The most dangerous man is the one who doesn't flinch in silence." That's who you're becoming. Not someone who's waiting, not someone who's wishing, but someone who's working. And when they finally turn around to look for you, they won't even recognize the presence they once took for granted. That's not petty, that's powerful. Let me add a little fun to this, because you know what happens when you truly go no contact the right way. When you actually stop caring and start glowing. Suddenly, they start lurking, watching your stories, clicking your name, pretending they're not checking in, but you know the game. That's when you smile to yourself and say, too late, because now you're not quiet for them. You're silent for you. So stay with me, because this video isn't just about going silent. It's about going so far that silence becomes your new language. Where your peace is so loud, it echoes. Where your detachment is so deep, it shakes their confidence. This is about making them wonder what happened to the version of you they thought they could control. And guess what? That version doesn't exist anymore. They don't need to hear your words. They need to feel your absence. They don't need your reaction. They need your evolution. This is not about ignoring them. It's about outgrowing them so wildly that they don't even know how to step to you again. So my friends, if you're ready to stop begging the silence to work for you and start working through it, then write this in the comments: I rise beyond silence. Say it, feel it, own it. Press that like button, hit subscribe and stay with me, because from this moment on, we're not disappearing to punish them. We're disappearing to become untouchable. Number 1, burn the bridge. You keep imagining they'll cross. They didn't ghost you, my friends. They just expected you'd haunt yourself. Let's go deep right now. Let's talk about the bridge. Not the one they burned, but the one you keep rebuilding in your mind. You know exactly what I mean. that invisible rope you're still clinging to, the secret little hope that one day they'll come running back with an apology in their mouth and regret in their eyes. That one day they'll realize what they lost and try to cross that same bridge like nothing ever happened. But here's the uncomfortable truth. They're not coming back the way you want them to. And every time you keep that bridge alive in your imagination, you don't just hurt yourself, you feed their ego. Because whether you say it or not, your energy still says, "I'm waiting." And people can feel that, especially the ones who expect you to stay stuck. Imagine this. You're holding the torch, standing by that imaginary bridge, waiting to see their silhouette in the distance, but nothing comes, just wind, just silence. And still, you don't move. You don't walk away. Why? Because part of you still believes they'll realize, that they'll feel something, that they'll hurt the way you did, that somehow the universe will push them to turn around and see your worth. But they won't. Because, folks, most people don't learn their lesson when you're waiting. They learn it when you vanish, when you stop standing there, hoping, when the bridge they thought they could always cross is nothing but ash. That's when their ego breaks. Not when they lose your number, but when they lose access to the version of you who ever needed closure, attention, or apology. Let me ask you a question. Why are you really holding on to that hope? Is it love or is it fear? Fear that if you truly let go, there's nothing on the other side. Fear that maybe they were the best thing you ever had. That if you burn that last thread, you'll have to face the silence. And in that silence, you'll hear all the things you tried not to face. The loneliness, the questions, the pain. I get it. That fear is real. But so is this truth. That imaginary bridge is not your safety. It's your prison. You built it because you still think they'll come back as someone different. But they won't. They already showed you who they are. Your mistake is thinking they left something behind that still belongs to you. Here's the lie we need to burn. If I stay silent long enough, they'll return and finally treat me right. Wrong. They'll return if you stay available, if you linger in their orbit, if you stay energetically accessible, still reacting, still posting for them, still quietly waiting in your heart. That's not no contact. That's emotional bondage with invisible chains. The bridge has to go, not just in your phone, in your mind, in your memory, in your future plans. Because if you leave a door unlocked, the past has a funny way of walking back in, wearing the same face, telling the same lies and pretending it's brand new, and you'll fall for it, again. Unless you finally understand, no one changes just because you gave them time. People change when they feel your absence in places they thought they owned. You want to crush their ego? Don't yell, don't post. Don't try to make them jealous. Just burn the bridge, light it up with everything they thought they could use to get back in. Your hope, your loyalty, your forgiveness, your softness. Let it all go up in smoke. And once you do, watch how the silence starts working differently. Watch how they start getting nervous. Because now they can't read you. They can't find you. They can't reach the version of you they expected to crawl back. You've disappeared, but not to punish them. You've disappeared to evolve. And their ego, it's terrified. Because you didn't just leave the conversation, you left the role they cast you in. Let me give you a quote that hits deep. The people who left you hanging are the ones who fear the day you stop reaching. That day is now. And it's not just about going cold, it's about getting clear. You're not angry, you're finished, you're not hoping, you're healing, you're not waiting, you're working. And when you do that, when you stand there, not looking back, not hoping, not explaining, just becoming more and more you, that's when the pain turns into power, That's when they feel the shift. And let me tell you something, folks, that shift is silent. But it shakes everything. You don't owe them a reaction. You don't owe them the old version of you. You don't owe them anything except the memory of someone they will never be able to access again. That's how you win. That's how you crush an ego, by removing the one thing it needs to survive, your attention. And I know it's hard. I know there's a part of you that still wants to believe they'll get it one day, that maybe you mattered more than they let on. But let me break it down like this. If you have to suffer to prove your worth to someone, they were never worthy of seeing you in the first place. So stop staring at the bridge. Stop feeding the fantasy. Stop giving CPR to something that flatlined months ago. Light the match, burn the what-ifs, and rise. You're not here to be the chapter they skip to when things get boring. You're the story they'll never get to rewrite. Let them scroll. Let them wonder. Let them feel the weight of your silence without the comfort of your weakness. Now say it with me and write it in the comments. I burn the bridge and I rise. Show them, show yourself, show the world that your power isn't in your silence, it's in your evolution. Because this is just the beginning. Stay with me. What's coming next? They're not ready for it. Number 2. Remove the mirror. Stop reflecting their worth. As long as you're reflecting them, they're still shining in your story. Take away the mirror and watch how dim they really are. Let's keep it real, folks. No contact means nothing if they're still glowing in your mind. If every thought, every post, every movement you make is still a reaction to them, then congratulations. They still own you, just without touching you. That's the trick you've got to wake up from. You didn't go no contact. You went low contact with yourself. Because here's what most people don't realize. Silence isn't power when your entire inner world is still orbiting them. You think just because you stop texting, you're healing, but you're not. You're just silent and obsessed. You're just quiet and chained. You're still giving them something, and that something is your energy. And let me tell you, energy doesn't lie. Now picture this. You're holding up a mirror in front of someone. Every time you think about them, post a quote aimed at them or scroll to see if they're watching. You tilt that mirror toward them. You shine light on them. You make them central. And the crazy part, they don't even have to earn it. They don't have to apologize. They don't even have to be present. You're still making them the main character of your internal movie, and you're playing background music in your own story. How wild is that? You left the relationship. You went silent. But emotionally, they're still living rent-free in the penthouse of your head, and you're the one paying the bills. Let that sink in. This is why so many people never truly heal after no contact. They think deleting the messages was enough. They think blocking them is the breakthrough. But healing doesn't happen on the screen. It happens in the mirror. And sometimes the hardest part isn't removing them from your life. It's removing them from the way you see yourself. Let's be honest. You're not really wondering how they are. You're wondering if they're still thinking about you. You're not posting that quote about healing and growth because it's your truth. You're doing it because you hope they'll see it and feel a little sting. That's not growth. That's shadow chasing. That's still feeding the fire you're pretending you put out. And folks, here's the worst part. They know it. They can feel when your energy is still connected. They might be silent, but they know you're still carrying them like a ghost in your chest. That's their ego's favorite meal. Knowing you're done, but still reacting. Knowing you're healing, but still haunted. Knowing you're over it, but still performing like they're watching. That's what you've got to stop. You've got to put the mirror down, not just for them, but for yourself. There's a quote I'll drop here that hits like a hammer. You don't escape someone by walking away. You escape them by no longer seeing them as your reflection. What does that mean? It means stop letting them define your worth. Stop wondering if they think you were good enough. Stop asking if they regret losing you, because every time you do that, you place your value in their perception, and that's dangerous. That's how you become someone you no longer recognize, someone who waits for their ex's thoughts to tell them who they are. It has to stop. You need to reclaim your own reflection, and that starts by refusing to use their silence as a mirror for your value. Just because they haven't reached out doesn't mean you weren't enough. Just because they moved on fast doesn't mean you're replaceable. Just because they act unbothered doesn't mean they didn't feel something. But guess what? It doesn't matter, because their feelings are no longer your responsibility. And your value, it doesn't shrink or grow based on how someone else perceives you. It's constant, it's untouchable, but only if you stop using their reactions to measure it. This is where the Stoic mindset kicks in. A Stoic doesn't hand out mirrors. A Stoic doesn't perform. A Stoic builds quietly and lets results reflect truth. You don't heal by being seen. You heal by becoming someone who no longer needs to be seen. Now listen close, because this one might sting a little. You will never crush their ego if you keep needing them to validate your glow-up. If you're growing just to be noticed, you're not growing, you're advertising. That's not transformation. That's manipulation, and when they sense it, they smile. Because your growth isn't about you, it's still about them. So here's what you do instead. You go invisible, not because you're hiding, but because you're detaching. You're putting the focus back on your path, your peace, your process. You stop checking, you stop hinting, you stop wondering, you start reclaiming, and when you do, you become someone who doesn't reflect their light. You become the damn source. And let me tell you, that is when the game changes. When your name comes up and people say, they've changed, they're glowing differently. That's when their ego starts to crack, not because you showed off, but because you stopped needing to show up at all in their world. That silence, it becomes heavier. That distance, it becomes deeper. That mystery, it becomes magnetic. Because the truth is, people crave attention, but they're haunted by indifference. When you finally stop reflecting their worth, they're forced to look at their own. And if they've been depending on you to make them feel valuable, guess what? That void starts to swallow them. And you're long gone. So my friends, take the mirror down. Stop using their ego as your compass. Stop feeding their confidence with your curiosity. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to post anything. You don't need them to validate anything. You just need to become. Become so secure that their absence feels like peace. Become so solid that their silence sounds like music. Become so focused that their opinion is just background noise to your mission. And when you do that, they feel it. Oh, they feel it. Say this with me and drop it in the comments right now. I don't reflect them. I radiate me. Say it loud. Say it with your chest. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you no longer carry mirrors. You carry fire. And stay close, because what's coming next will make their ego not just crack, but collapse. Number 3. Silence isn't the weapon. Indifference is. You don't break them by going silent. You break them when your silence no longer cares if they're listening. Let's clear this up once and for all, folks. Silence alone doesn't destroy egos. If that were true, half the world would be shattered already. Because silence is everywhere. People ghost, vanish, block, disappear, but it rarely leaves impact. You know why? Because most silence is fake. It's loud with hope. It's dripping in expectation. It's pretending not to care while secretly checking their story views and rereading old messages. But here's what they don't see coming. Indifference. Real, raw, unshakable indifference. That's the killer. That's the earthquake that shakes their ego loose. Because when you go silent and still care, they can feel it. But when you go silent and no longer give a single damn, that's when they start to panic. That's when they realize the thread is gone, the leash is cut, the performance is over, and they're not the main character anymore. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you're at war, but instead of weapons, you're trading silence. At first, they're fine with it. It's a game. They think they're winning. They think you're suffering. But one day, the silence shifts. It goes cold. It goes calm. It stops vibrating. It stops reacting. It just exists. And that's when their ego starts whispering, "Wait, did I really lose them?" That's the moment. That's the crack. Because ego can handle anger. Ego can handle a tear. Ego can even handle you begging. But ego can't handle being ignored, not just online, not just physically, but energetically, spiritually, emotionally. Ego dies when it realizes you've moved on without needing to be seen doing it. Let's be honest, my friends. Most of you think silence is the win. But if you're still posting quotes hoping they see, if you're still throwing subliminal shade on Instagram, if you're still stalking their feed on a burner account, you're not silent. You're screaming through a mask. And they hear it. They feel it. And worst of all, they feed off it. You think no contact is hurting them. But ask yourself this. Are you still hurt when someone disappears, but you know they're still watching, still curious, still hoping? No, you feel powerful. Because you know they're still tethered. You know they still care. That's exactly what they feel about you if you're still peeking behind curtains. They feel in control. And a person who feels in control doesn't regret. They celebrate. So how do you crush that? You stop caring, not pretending. Actually, you stop hoping. You stop performing. You stop tracking. You stop designing your day around what they might think. That's when the silence becomes a sword. That's when it cuts. Because now you've taken away the one thing they needed to survive, emotional attention. There's a quote I need you to stamp on your brain. Silence isn't powerful until it's paired with detachment. That's where the game changes. Because detachment isn't coldness. It's not bitterness. It's not about being emotionless. It's about choosing what gets your energy and what doesn't. And when someone no longer qualifies, that's when the silence becomes fatal. Here's the tough part. You'll feel the pull. You'll want to check. You'll want to post something deep and moody, hoping they see it and feel your pain. But pain isn't power. Pain is proof they still have something of yours. Your peace, your self-respect, your power. You've got to reclaim it. That means discipline. That means not reacting when they randomly like an old post just to test you. That means not responding to the just checking in message they throw like a grenade to see if you're still broken. That means not falling for the trap of being seen. Because when you respond, you reveal, I'm still here, I still care. But when you don't, when you ignore it like it never existed, that silence doesn't whisper, it roars, and inside their head, it's chaos. They start questioning, did I lose them for real? Are they over me? Did they outgrow me? That's when their ego starts bleeding. You want the truth? Most people don't miss you for who you were. They miss you for how much you needed them. They miss the control. They miss the attention. They miss being the center of your universe. When that disappears, not because you blocked them, but because you no longer orbit them, that's when the reality sets in. And guess what? You don't need to announce it. You don't need to post a story about cutting off fake people or healing in silence. All of that is noise. Ego. Noise that still tries to prove something. You don't have to prove anything. You just become. Become what? Become so locked into your path that their name doesn't even echo anymore. Become so invested in your growth that even their presence would feel like a distraction. Become so indifferent that even if they showed up with everything you once begged for, you wouldn't flinch. That's the win, that's the revenge, not getting them back, not making them jealous, not proving your worth, but not needing any of it, because your identity no longer bends to their reaction, because you've become someone who doesn't chase, who doesn't react, who doesn't flinch, who doesn't fold. That's power. That's Stoicism. That's what makes their ego tremble in ways your silence never could. Let me give you this. The most terrifying thing you can become to someone who once thought they had power over you is unbothered. That's when they spiral. Not because you're yelling, not because you're angry, but because you've gone silent and there's no signal left. So my friends, this is your line in the sand. You're not just cutting contact, you're cutting cords. You're not just ignoring them, you're forgetting they ever had the power to distract you. From this moment forward, you don't just go silent, you go sovereign. Say it with me now and drop it in the comments. My silence holds no hope. Write it, feel it, live it. Because the next move? Oh, it's going to shake everything. Stay with me. The real transformation is just getting started. Number 4, let the void rebuild you. The silence you're running from is the place where the real you is waiting. All right, my friends, now that we've burned the bridge, dropped the mirror, and turned our silence into steel, let's walk into the place most people avoid like fire, the void. That space after no contact where everything feels empty, still, dead quiet. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The late nights where the phone doesn't buzz, the mornings where there's no good morning text, the endless scroll through your thoughts, wondering if you made the right choice by walking away. But let me tell you something. This isn't emptiness. It's sacred ground. This is where you meet the version of you they never got to know. This is where the fog starts to clear. This is where you stop reacting and start rebuilding. The void, my friends, is not your punishment. It's your playground. It's your forge. It's the dojo where the strongest parts of you are carved out in sweat, silence, and solitude. Now, I get it. Most people treat the void like a waiting room. They sit in it, tapping their foot, checking the door every few minutes, hoping it swings open and they come back in, hoping that silence forces regret. But let's break that lie wide open. The void is not for waiting, it's for waking. Waking up to who you've been, to how much you tolerated, to how long you let your identity be defined by someone else's attention. That's what the silence shows you, if you dare to sit in it without flinching. Picture this. You're standing in a wide, dark room. No sound, no lights, just you, your breath, and the echoes of everything you haven't dealt with. Most people panic in that room. They try to escape it. They reach for distractions, rebound relationships, late-night texts, or mindless scrolling. But those who are ready, they sit down, they breathe, they listen to the quiet, because in that quiet, the truth finally gets a voice. You hear things like, "Why did I ignore the red flags? Why did I let them treat me like an option? Why was I so afraid of being alone?" And those questions, they hurt, but they heal, because they lead you to the answers, and the answers lead you to yourself. Here's something most people won't tell you. It's not your ex you miss. It's the version of yourself that felt loved when you were with them. The illusion, the high, the chemical rush, that's the addiction. But the void breaks the addiction. It strips away the fantasy and leaves you with facts, not feelings, facts. And the fact is, if they were meant to be with the evolved version of you, they wouldn't have lost access. There's a quote I want you to remember every time the silence starts to feel heavy. The void is not empty. It's full of everything you've ignored. That's where the power is. In the things you finally face. In the pain you finally stop running from. In the goals you finally set without needing to impress anyone. Because what if I told you the silence isn't here to break you? It's here to build you, to sharpen your vision, to train your discipline, to reignite your purpose. Most of the strongest people you've ever admired, they were built in silence, in solitude, in seasons where no one clapped, no one checked in, no one cared, and they didn't wait for applause. They worked in the dark until they no longer needed light. And now it's your turn. You start waking up early, not to check your notifications, but to check your potential. You hit the gym, not to post a thirst trap, but to remind yourself you can endure pain without breaking. You read, you learn, you build something that doesn't need validation to grow, and slowly you start walking different, talking different, thinking different, because the version of you that once begged for closure no longer exists. The silence killed them, and from their ashes, you're rising. And guess what? They'll feel it. Oh yeah, they'll feel it. But not through a message, not through a post, not through some dramatic update. They'll feel it in the shift, the way your name carries a new weight, the way mutual friends start talking about your glow, the way your absence hits like a wall, because you didn't just disappear. You evolved in front of them without ever saying a word. That's what the void gives you when you stop treating it like a curse and start treating it like a classroom. You don't just pass time, you transform it. And every second you stay present in that silence is another rep in your spiritual gym. Another scar turned into muscle, another tear turned into fuel. This is your edge. Most people can't do it. They can't sit with themselves. That's why they bounce back and forth between shallow connections, trying to distract from the one person they need to confront, themselves. But not you, not anymore. You're learning to breathe in the quiet, to walk through your own storm without flinching, to become so whole, so centered, so untouchable, that even if they came back tomorrow and begged, you wouldn't even need to open the door, not because you're angry, but because you're done searching, because you found yourself, and nothing feels better than that. So the next time the silence starts to feel like a trap, remind yourself, it's actually your training ground. It's the fire that forges, the cave that transforms, the place where the weak version of you goes to die, and the strongest version of you is born. Say it with me now, and drop it in the comments. I rebuild in the silence. Say it like you mean it. Show them, show yourself, show the world that the void didn't break you. It built you. And stay close, my friends, because what's coming next, it's the part where they try to come back and realize you're not even reachable anymore. Number 5, break the supply. Starve their need to matter. You're not starving them with silence if you're still feeding them with attention. Let's not play games, my friends. Let's get honest. You think you cut them off, but you're still handing them the one thing they need to survive: validation. Not with your words, not with texts, but with energy, with that quiet little craving that still asks, do they miss me? With that post you made for yourself, but low-key hoped they'd see. With that habit of checking their profile at 1 a.m. when you think no one's watching. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. Ego doesn't starve from silence. Ego starves when it's forgotten. Most people who walk away don't do it out of strength. They do it because they assume they'll still matter. They think they'll still be in your head, still in your heart, still lingering in your choices, your glow up, your every move. And if they're right, if you're still indirectly reacting to them, they win. Their ego is fed, quietly, consistently, even from a distance. You want to break them? You want to flip the script? You don't need a savage comeback. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to cut off the supply, and I mean completely, emotionally, mentally, energetically. You stop giving them anything that makes them feel like they're still a part of your story. Let me hit you with this. You kill ego not by fighting it, but by no longer serving it. And every time you peek, post, or react to trigger them, you're still serving it. Now let's be real. That little urge to accidentally show up in their notifications, that's not power. That's pain disguised as strategy. That's the ghost of your old self trying to keep hope alive through breadcrumbs. But that old self, the one who needed to be seen, has to die if you want to be free. And the version of you that's reborn, they don't chase closure. They close doors. Look at how it works. You stop texting them, sure, but you still post stories that hint you're healing, you're glowing, you're doing amazing. You still share quotes that basically scream, look what you lost, and maybe they do see it. Maybe they even like it. Maybe they send a fake checking-in message. But guess what? That's not connection. That's control. That's them making sure they still live rent-free in your emotional world. And if you respond, even a little, they win. It's like trying to kill a fire by throwing ice cubes at it. Doesn't work, because your intention isn't cold. It's still burning inside. They can feel it. They can read between your lines. And they're smirking, because they know you're still orbiting them while pretending to have moved on. So here's what you do instead. You become invisible. Not in the algorithm. Not on social media. In their psychological universe. You become the absence they didn't prepare for. Not a cold shoulder, but a complete vanishing act. Not bitterness, oblivion. That's what shatters the ego. Not anger, not revenge, but irrelevance. Think about it. What's more terrifying for someone with a superiority complex, your rage or your silence paired with zero reaction? They can process hate. They can feed off drama. They thrive in chaos. But when they're met with indifference, when they look and there's nothing, no trace, no post, no emotion, they start crumbling. Because the game doesn't work anymore. The supply line is cut. The control mechanism is gone. It's like they're knocking on a door that doesn't even exist anymore. And that echo, that's their ego falling apart in real time. Now let's talk about discipline, because this isn't easy. You'll want to test the waters. You'll want to post something spicy, something powerful, just to see if they bite. You'll want to show them you're doing better. But here's the question. Why do you need them to know? Why do you need their eyes on your success? Because if you do, your glow-up is still tethered to their opinion. It's not real. It's rented. And when you rent your healing out to someone else's validation, they can always raise the price. You want freedom? You want true emotional power? Then make peace with being unseen, with growing in silence, with becoming so fully, so unapologetically yourself that you don't even think about them when you're thriving. That's when you become dangerous. That's when they feel the loss, not of attention, but of influence. Because attention is cheap. Anyone can post something and get noticed, but non-reactivity, that's elite. That's spiritual dominance. That's how you crush their ego without lifting a finger, by rising in a direction they can't follow. So don't post for them. Don't perform. Don't try to craft the perfect look what you lost moment. That's weak energy. That's still playing their game. Instead, play yours. Elevate in silence. Win with tunnel vision. Build a life so focused, so locked in, so rooted in you, that even if they stumbled across it, it wouldn't be for them anymore. They had their chance, and now they can only watch. From afar, from behind blocked energy, from outside the walls you built in the void. And the most beautiful part, you don't even care if they're watching. That's how far you've come. That's how complete the detachment is. That's what real freedom feels like. And that feeling, it can't be faked, it can't be copied, it can't be stalked or baited out of you. It can only be earned. You're not bitter, you're not wounded, you're woke. You see the game now. You see how much power you gave away just by needing to be noticed. And now, you're done. So say it with me right now and drop it in the comments. No more free supply. Say it like you mean it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that their ego is not your responsibility to maintain anymore. You're not here to remind them of your value. You're here to live it so fully that your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. And stick with me, because what's coming next? That's the moment they try to reach back and realize the version of you they thought they could always return to doesn't exist anymore. Number 6. Become the mystery their ego can't solve. They stop chasing you when they understand you, so become the question that keeps them awake. Let's talk about mystery, my friends. Not the kind that plays hard to get, not games, not gimmicks. I'm talking about the kind of mystery that makes someone question everything they thought they knew about you. The kind that doesn't come from pretending to be silent, but from actually becoming someone so evolved, so detached, so different, that their ego can't even recognize you anymore. That's how you shatter control. That's how you break the spell. You become unsolvable. See, here's what most people don't realize. Ego thrives on predictability. If they know how you'll react, they own you. If they can predict that you'll post something sad after they go quiet or throw shade after they ignore you, they feel safe. They feel in charge. You've become a script they can read backwards. And the moment they feel they've got you figured out, they stop valuing you because there's no challenge, no tension, no mystery. And people, especially the ones driven by ego, don't chase what they understand. They chase what confuses them. They chase what makes them question their own worth. That's why indifference hits harder than anger. That's why silence paired with purpose becomes louder than any confrontation. Because it shifts the story. It messes with the role they thought they assigned you. Now you're not the one who reacts. You're the one they can't read. Imagine this. You used to be the open book. Easy to read. Easy to hurt. Every time they left, you'd post something. Every time they ghosted, you'd chase a little. You were predictable, and that predictability made them feel like the prize. But now the book is closed. No more pages for them to flip through. No new chapters for them to skim. You stopped writing your story for their curiosity. You started writing it for your evolution, and suddenly, they're the one left guessing. Let me drop a quote on you. You become unforgettable the moment they realize they can't access you the way they used to. Think about that. You're not unforgettable because of what you gave. You're unforgettable because of what you stopped giving. You removed the predictable patterns. You took away the comfort. You left no trace, not because you were hiding, but because you were rebuilding. Now let's get real for a second. This is going to feel strange at first. When you stop reacting, there's going to be silence. And in that silence, your old self is going to scream. It's going to want to post, to check, to break the tension. But don't. That silence, that's where the magic begins. That's when they start checking. That's when they start scrolling. That's when their ego, so used to being fed, starts panicking because it doesn't know what you're thinking anymore. That's the shift. They see your name and it doesn't make sense. They wonder, why haven't I heard from them? Why aren't they doing what they always do? Why do I feel like they don't care? And you want to know the answer, because you don't. You've stopped playing their game. You've stopped needing to be seen. You've stopped dancing for their attention. You've become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. But here's the key. It has to be real. You can't fake mystery. You can't post thirst traps hoping they bite and call it detachment. That's still performance. That's still tied to reaction. Mystery only works when it comes from genuine disinterest, from authentic movement, from building your life in directions that no longer include them, not even as a ghost. This is when your power gets dangerous. In the best way. You stop talking. You stop hinting. You stop giving them anything to interpret. And the silence? It doesn't say, "I miss you." It says, "I've evolved." It says, "I'm building something you'll never be part of again." It says, "You don't even know who I am anymore." And that mystery, it starts working like a mirror, because the less they know about you, the more they start seeing themselves. Their ego starts panicking because it's lost its audience. It doesn't know if it still matters. And when ego feels like it's been erased, it starts looking for signs. Any signs, a like, a story view, a comment, a mutual friend's update. But guess what? You've gone invisible, not in the shadows, but in plain sight. You're just not playing anymore. That's when they spiral, because your silence used to mean waiting. Now it means freedom. Your detachment used to be strategy. Now it's identity. And their ego can't handle that. They thought they could come back any time. They thought the door would stay open. But now the door's gone. The house has changed. The map doesn't lead anywhere they recognize. Let me hit you with this truth. The greatest revenge isn't making them jealous. It's becoming so unpredictable they don't even know what to feel. That's when the insecurity creeps in. That's when they start stalking in silence, testing your energy, dropping crumbs to see if you'll chase. And when you don't, when you just keep moving like they never existed, that's when the ego shatters. They weren't ready for this version of you, the one who doesn't respond, the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't need to be seen or heard or validated, the one who radiates mystery because you're not performing, you're becoming. And this isn't about being cold. It's not about being fake. It's about being unavailable to manipulation. You're no longer a mirror for their insecurity. You're no longer a screen for their projection. You're a closed circuit, self-sustained, self-fueled, self-validated. So let them wonder, let them scroll, let them try to connect dots that no longer exist. While they're caught up in confusion, you're out there moving in clarity. While they're stuck asking, "What happened?" You're out there living like the question doesn't even matter anymore. Now say it with me and drop it in the comments. I am the mystery, not the memory, not the message, not the chapter they keep rereading. The mystery, the story they'll never get to finish. And stick with me, because what's coming next, it's the part where they realize, even if they figured you out now, it's already too late. Number 7. Rewrite your identity where they can't touch it. They didn't just lose you, they lost access to the version of you they thought would never leave. By now, you've burned the bridge, you've cut the supply, and you've become a mystery they can't decode. But none of that matters, unless you seal it with transformation. Not temporary change, not performance, not the kind of fake glow-up that begs for attention. I'm talking about real, rooted, silent, unshakable evolution. The kind they can't reach, the kind they can't even recognize. See, most people go through a breakup and try to show they've changed. They post their gym selfies, their new projects, their new friends, all hoping their ex is still watching. That's not power, that's theater, that's still a show, and they're still the audience. But when you rewrite your identity, not for their attention, not for revenge, but for your rebirth, that's when everything changes. Let's make one thing clear, folks. You don't evolve to prove a point. You evolve so deeply that even if they wanted to come back, they wouldn't know where to find you. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. Because the old you, the one who waited for them, who obsessed, who hoped they'd finally get it, that version is gone. Gone because you stopped feeding their ego. Gone because you stopped measuring your worth by how they treated you. Gone because you stopped asking why they left and started asking who you were becoming. And the version of you that's rising now, that version doesn't need closure, doesn't need validation, doesn't need to explain anything to anyone, because the new you doesn't live in reaction. You live in purpose. You've cut every cord. You've cleaned the energy. You've stopped being available to people who couldn't handle your worth the first time. You want to know the real win. It's not when they regret losing you. It's when you no longer recognize the person who ever thought they were worth breaking for. That's when you know your identity isn't just healed, it's rebuilt. So stop checking if they're watching. Stop wondering if they'll regret it. Stop hoping they'll apologize. It's not about them anymore. It never really was. It's about you becoming untouchable, not because you're hiding, but because you leveled up to a frequency where they no longer exist. And when they look for you in the same old places, your page, your vibe, your energy, they'll find nothing but dust, because you're not a version, you're a revelation. Now drop this in the comments. I evolve where they can't reach. Say it, claim it, live it. And if this hit deep, if you're ready to close the chapter and become the version they'll never hold again, hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Blessing, and turn on notifications, because the next time they think of you, it'll only be in past tense. And that, my friends, is how you end it with power.